Audio. Hello.
Okay, okay. Can you hear
You hear me?
me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can't hear you. So, so I don't know why I can't hear you for some reason.
I'm gonna leave out for a second.
Hold on. What's going down, everybody? It's your boy Minnesota Figure from the R&B Talk Show, man. I apologize, man. I am 9 minutes late, man. I had oh man, I was caught up in a conversation. I had to take care of some business though. But other than that, man, I hope everybody's doing good. I'm not running late, excuse the room, but just do a lot of reconstruction and stuff though. But hope everybody's good so far, man. But Kevin Ross, he's gonna return back on here in a minute. Yeah, it's been it's been about like 4 years since 2021, since the last time I interviewed him, back in like September and stuff. So and we're gonna pick things up and talk about his current hit single Love in the Middle. Jay Blue, what's going on? What's going on? Okay, here we go. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, let me see if I can hear you. Okay, hold on, man. You're gonna pause this for a
Hey
second.
Jay.
Hold on. I think I need to do something on my end. Hold on. Man, I hate it, man. Whenever you try to do something, it's like black people can't be great for once. Oh man. Hold on, man. Okay, let me see.
Hey Ari. Hey V.
Okay. Yeah, you go ahead and get it talking. Okay, let me see. Hey Ari. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but I want to congratulate you, man, on your new single, Love in the Middle.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, but I want to congratulate you. And yeah,
Do you
Love
hear
in the
that?
Middle.
Do
I
you hear
thought it
that
was hot,
feedback?
man. Yeah, but I want to congratulate you. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, I love the song "Love in the Middle," man. I thought it was pretty dope because I heard on radio, and I was like, I said, "Yo, you got another banger, man." Because the
Ah,
last time I talked to you, you just dropped the last project you had on the last album was like 4 years ago, man. I was like, damn, man, time went by so fast. That's when you put out what's that one song? Not Sweet Release. Oh god. Looking for Love.
oh yeah, that was off of Drive 2. So there's a project in between called Midnight Microdose. And
Yeah.
yeah. So we had a record off there called Look My Way. So that went top 10 on R&B Billboard as well. Midnight Microdose came out, I want to say 2023, possibly. So yeah.
Yeah. Cause
AJ
I
Matter.
remember, matter of fact, I remember when I heard Sweet Release, and I said, "Yo, dude, that's got to be a second single. Got to be a video behind it." I said, "That song is just hot, man." Dude, I'd have wore that out for the whole 2022. Last time you talked and stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I want to revert back. I want to congratulate you with Love in the Middle being a top 10 adult R&B hit on the airplane, man. So congratulations.
Oh no, it's just an R&B. So they changed the format of it. So just so that everybody knows that's on here, because of how radio is now, and because
Yeah,
all of
cause
the artists that are coming on here, especially major label artists, they don't want the adult R&B on. So it's just the R&B Billboard R&B chart. So it makes it better for me. You know what I mean? But yeah, so the Giveons and all of these people now want to be on that chart, so they have to change the name of it so that it doesn't skew as older. So now it's just the Billboard R&B charts.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cause I know like they got like the media base, and then I forgot they got something. I think it's called Hot R&B and Hip Hop R&B Airplay. But to me, I thought that adult R&B is where it is, man, because it's like especially got so many singers like this. I mean, got so many basic singers like yourself. It's like R&B got to have a home when it comes to the Billboard chart.
Yeah, and I mean, and it works well as far as I think with urban mainstream, it wasn't a lot of space for R&B. You know what I mean? Like it was literally becoming hip hop R&B. You know what I mean? Like with maybe
Yeah,
2 songs out of like 40 on the charts that were doing pretty well. And
yeah,
so, this makes space and it leaves room for a lot of artists, especially major or indie, to, you know, if they want to play in, you know, terrestrial radio, they could come along. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, like with this new project, you know, like how many months did it took to put that together?
Love Up Tempo is something that I thought about for the past like 3 years. I had the concept around the same time that I had Midnight Microdose. So I was working on kind of both at the same time. And so I always work with like, all right, whatever pairings. And so it just so happened that Midnight Microdose had a pairing before Love Up Tempo did. And so I went with Midnight Microdose. And so then when I tapped back into Love Up Tempo, it made it a little bit easier. So, but it's been years in the making as far as conceptually. But once I kind of got down and like sat with it, it took about maybe like 6 months or so to really kind of carve it out.
Yeah, so I like this other song you put out called "Back for More," man. That's a banger, man.
Hey,
yeah, my girl, she love that song.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because matter of fact, because like whenever I follow artists and I get notifications or whatever project is coming out, and then like that song popped up, I said, let me check it out. So we was in the car riding around and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, this song right here, man, let me tell you something. I said, everything a brother sings, man, it's like a radio hit, man. You know what I'm saying? Because what I like about you, man, like every time you put it, you put so much energy into it, man. You know what I'm saying? Then we was Back for More, Spin, Afro Lube, and of course the lead single, Love in the Middle. Get into the Back for More. How did that song came about?
I want to say Back for More was one of the first songs. I think it was the first song that came out as far as creation wise, conception wise. And so I think I started that like January of last year or so. And I think it was a very easy process. Oh, you know what? That's a lie. I made Love in the Middle first. And then after working with Claude Kelly and Chuck Harmony and how we did that record, it was like, you know what? Like it started with piano. It started with just like the scratch. And it inspired me to kind of like create more records in like this scratch form, like this demo form to say, okay, play keys, do this demo, and then start to etch it out from there. And so yeah, definitely now, you know, the second record as far as to have been created from out of Love Up Tempo. And yeah, it was a process, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I like this title over here called Afro Lube. And I was like, man, I ain't never heard no title like that, man.
Yeah.
You know, like what was the concept of putting that track together?
I had Afro Lube. I had that interlude probably around the same time that I was doing Drive 2. And so I've had that for years. And I didn't know what to do with it because it was just kind of like a vocalise and it was just me playing these chords. And at first it was more like easy listening and stuff that I would kind of like play in the car, like outside of anything else, like if I didn't want to hear any lyrics or whatever. So I always felt like it was kind of like a palate cleanser sonically. And I was like, man, this is dope. I just got to figure out where to put it. And it didn't fit on Drive 2. It didn't fit on Midnight Microdose. And then when I finished Spin was when I was like, okay, how do I segue Spin into Love in the Middle? I was like, I think Afrolude can fit right here. And I had to change the beat. So Afrolude, I think it was more like, it was like a lo-fi type of groove that I had on it. But the chordings were the same. The bass line was pretty similar to it. And then I just put, you know what I mean, a more Afro beat to it to kind of extend the feel of Spin and then take us into Love in the Middle. So yeah.
There was I saw a post on it's this Twitter page called Music Data. Mm-hmm. They had like one of your singles, I think you put out maybe like 6-7 years ago, and it went over 500. It went over 500K basic certification gold. I don't know if you got notified, you know, through RIAA or through your management team. I can't think of the song.
Rumor has it that Long Song Away is gone gold. And rumor has it that the complete intro has gone gold. Rumor has it. So
yeah,
you know, we'll see. I mean, if it has, That's amazing. And you know, I'll get the plaques. By the way, for those of you who don't know, like when you get plaques, like you have to order them like yourself. So like no one RIAA or anybody, like they don't gift them to you. Like you have to put in your data and your numbers yourself to make sure that you're qualified, and then you have to
Wow.
pay for your plaque. So yeah, there's that.
Man, oh man, because I mean, you know, because like whenever I see certain posts and stuff, and I've been like, I want to do the R&B knowing, because I know like when it comes to seeing how much like data like a song does and albums and everything,
Yeah.
for you, like when it comes to your numbers, how you know your song is doing something when it comes to like streaming and radio play and stuff like that.
Honestly, I have kind of like a database that I use through my distribution company. And so on there, I can see every single stream as far as from every single DSP. And so I kind of understand the mechanics of it. Who are my champions? What am I getting from these champions? Who to lean in on. And so that helps to, build a better business structure for me as an independent artist, and saying, okay, I'm just not shooting in the dark and saying that going to these DSPs or these platforms make me look successful or look cool. But when you're indie, what matters is being profitable. And so
Wow.
to me, what I can only speak for me, being profitable is most important. And it's not for a selfish reason, but it's more for the bigger picture of the ecoscape of R&B, right? I'm always thinking about the ecosystem of R&B, because if I can prove that with an indie R&B that there are profitable artists that make great money that's out there, then it could possibly encourage others to say, well, okay, well, maybe I should start my path, but you have to find a blueprint. And it's quite amazing in the sense of this journey that I'm on, and I'm honored because of the fact that I'm literally like making the blueprint, or at least my blueprint that someone can follow as I go along. And so, with everybody that follows me, shout out to the rosters and the Kevin Ross music fan page that's on here. I really appreciate y'all for checking in to this. But this is the journey of it, right? Like it's never about the destination of where you're trying to go, but it's about the process and the journey and getting there, right? And so this is a part of the blueprint, and in the sense of saying, okay, here's one artist that took this route that proven to be successful. So 10 to 15 years to 20 years from then, or from now, they can look at that to say, okay, I can take bits and pieces of what Kevin did, or what Eric Roberson did, or what Eric Bellinger did, or what Kenyon Dixon did. We're all carving our own paths. But as long as we get to, where we want to get to and be profitable, that's what matters the most.
Yeah. So I want to start all the way back to where it came from. Growing up in DC, what was your childhood like growing up, and who was your inspiration as a kid?
My dad was the inspiration as far as singing is concerned, because he was the one that was singing at churches and weddings and stuff like that. And then growing up in DC, it's a very entrepreneurial, town. So, you're wearing DC clothing, DC everything. And so we're very supportive of one another in that way. And yeah, it was a really great energy and vibe, because people still love to party. They still love to go to go-go's and events and all that type of stuff. So everybody was outside. I consider myself blessed. And I feel like all of us that's watching, we're blessed to be a part of the last generation to experience what it is like to actually have no other choice but to go outside. You know what I'm saying? But then also to still watch the technological boom, right? So we were able to go outside, and you knew when the street lights came on, you had to bring your ass inside, and you knew to close the door because you can't let the good air out. You know what I'm saying? But also having the the Nintendo 64s and the Sega Dreamcast and the PlayStation, right? To watch that slowly become a thing of your cousins and your brother you know, everybody's downstairs and y'all playing video games, and that's your interaction. That's your community of playing to 10 or 15 years later. Now you can play with the whole world, right? You don't have to go outside because now we got Instagram, we got TikTok. Outside is is here. You know what I mean? And so it's just a different perspective in the
Yeah.
sense of you never realize what you have until it's, you know, hindsight is 2020. And so I consider myself blessed to experience both sides of it in the sense of a world without social media or a world
Yeah, I
without
agree.
technology being at the forefront, and then where we are now. And there's, you know, there's perks to both. But you know, we've experienced it both for sure.
Yeah. I remember the last time you was on here, it was like 4 years ago.
Mhm.
I can't remember what was do you start off singing? I think you said something like you was rapping at first because you thought
Yeah.
the singing was corny or something like it. You said, and I always stayed in my head. I said, well, next time I interview him again, I'm gonna bring it up and stuff
Yeah.
because you know it's funny when you're a kid. It's like if you try to sing, I was kind of like you like the butt of jokes or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you rap it, okay, you know, just try to finish, try to be cool. When you
Yeah.
kind of like got to a point like to break it out of it, what gave you the confidence? Like, you know, I'm going to sing, man. This rapping thing, it ain't working. I thought.
I think it was the environment, to be honest. You know, I was still rapping when I was in high school, right? So it started off maybe like in middle school and, you know, throughout maybe like ninth grade. So by the time 10th grade, you know, 15, 16 years old, and I'm in the arts high school. So my environment was just kind of like, you don't have to do this. Like you
Yeah,
can actually hone in on what you're really good at. And it seems like you have, you know, a good foundation of what singing is. Maybe you should hone in on that because rapping ain't leading you into the places that you need to be. You know what I mean? And that was just the truth of the matter. Like not even in the sense of like success. It was just my environments. Like rap was not putting me in an environment that was conducive for my growth. And so you know, being in an arts high school and then really honing in on, you know, vocal technique and, you know, my curiosity for musicality grew. And so I just kind of locked in and was just like, all right, this is the route, this is the path. And of course, you know, lyricism helps, you know what I mean? Like I can take whatever I'm thinking
yeah.
bar wise and try to, you know, put it into song form. And so you know, it was an era. It was an era. You know, had experience.
Yeah, you know, I didn't realize, man, that you was on 106 Park, you know, back in like the mid 2000s around that time.
Mhm,
You did a Wild
mhm.
Out Wednesday, man. And big shout out to 106 Park. That was like the go-to show, man, for all young kids, teens in their 20s, you know,
Yeah.
back then and stuff. What gave you the confidence to appear on there at the time?
I cannot give any credit to myself. That is Bobby Daniels, for sure. My brother from another mother. I've known him since I was in high school. He was the one that you know, hit me up. He was like, "Yo, you should do 106 and Park. You're of age now. You need to go and audition." I'm like, I don't want to do that. And part of it was because of the fact that I was nervous and I was scared and I didn't know if I was gonna be good enough. Exactly. Shout out to Bobby, right? But yeah, like, you know, he was the one who was like, yo, just give it a shot. Like, let's meet me in New York. Cause I was in Boston at the time. Meet me in New York. So he, you know, took a bus up from DC. I mean, from DC to New York. And then I took a bus down from Boston to New York. And we met in New York. And we auditioned in some like hotel conference room, and all that was in there was just like this one like Walmart picnic table and like all of
Wow.
the judges and executives and stuff from 106 and Park were there. So like shout out to Pat Charles and I don't think Stephen Hill was there. I met him on set. But yeah, like so many like cool people that I would meet during that process. And yeah, everybody wanted to be a 106 and Park. I want to say this was like 2009. So, you know, this is Terrence and Roxy's era of it. And yeah, I ended up getting accepted onto the show. And then, yeah, and then shortly after that, a couple months after, they gave us a date to pull up to New York to do was it Wild Out Wednesday.
Wow.
And surprisingly, I won. And so yeah, that was cool.
Now, correct me on this. How did the whole situation with Troy Taylor came about? You know, now was it for you to contract, because in a bid start to be the artist, or they hire you just strictly as a writer? You know, because I know you wrote for, was it Trey Songz, Jamie Foxx? Am I correct on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how did that process begin, as far as on that part?
Through 106 Apart. He saw me on 106.
Yeah.
And during that time, MySpace still existed. Twitter was just starting to, like, pop off. And he hit me on MySpace and he was just like, yo, like, you're dope. I'm in Atlanta. Whenever you're in Atlanta, like, hit me. I was still in college. So, whenever I could get down there just to write or whatever, like, I would write and go down there. And we just always kept in touch, while I was in college. He was just like, uh, he's like, if you think about leaving college, don't do it. Don't be stupid. He was just like, finish. Like, you're halfway done. Like, finish it and get it, get it done. And then, come down here and let's work. So he saw me as an artist. He saw me as, as a full creative being. I went down to Atlanta for everybody else, just as a writer, because I didn't want that. I didn't need that, in the sense of people feeling like they couldn't be their authentic self around me, or sessions turn into like, well, they not gonna cut it, you should cut it. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to fully immerse myself into the writing community and to understand what that grind was, because all I knew was singing at that point, and I really wanted to write, but I didn't know what it would take. And so I was glad that I went down to Atlanta to experience that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember when I first caught wind of you, when you did your project called Dialogue in the Gray back in
Oh man.
2014. And when I first heard it, because my sister, she said, man, you gotta check this brother out, man. She said, she said he is hot like that. That's when we were still selling, that's when we still had CDs, kind of like the final years of it and stuff. And I
Yeah.
listened to it, I said, but it's bad. Now, so correct me on this, it was like a 4 EP track, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what was that Motown decision, or was that your decision?
It was definitely more of a Motown decision for sure. Yes, come on, Jay. Dream. That's one of the tracks. I mean, I think with dealing with major labels, they're always gonna go for what they feel what is best, at the time. And so,
Yeah.
that's what happened. But I'll say this, they tried and they gave it a valiant effort, in the sense of that regime, right? That regime of Motown. I think it was called like the New Definition of Soul. And yeah, no one knew what they was doing. The artists, the staff, no one knew. So, like, to no offense or no harm, no foul type of situation. It was just kind of like, none of us knew. We were just trying to figure it out, and we made do for what we had, and then great memories and great experiences came out of it. So it was fun.
Yeah, what was it like to open up for Maxwell, during like the beginning of your solo career around that time? I know that was huge, man.
Oh yeah, no, it was crazy. It was crazy. I wasn't performing like at all during that time. I had a performance experience, but not at that level. You going from doing, Apache Cafe in Atlanta that maybe holds like 100 people soaking wet, to 3,000 people, and no one knows who you are and no one cares. And so the beauty of that is you learn quick. You learn quick how to adjust, and you learn that every show matters, right? Like, even though it's like, man, you gave a great show in such and such Virginia, you got to give that same show in Biloxi, Mississippi. You got to come with that same energy. You can't be, caught up with things that's on the road. You know what I'm saying? Girls that's pulling at you because you on stage. You got a job to do, and you ain't Maxwell. So you gotta show up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, and we were in like a church van. Like, we was in like a 12 passenger, we sleeping in one hotel room, 2 queen beds, head to foot, one on the floor, one sleeping in the van, and we just rotated. Like, that was my first touring experience, and that really taught me character. You know what I mean? And also endurance as well. Like, you know, that would be kind of a precursor or prelude to my journey, in the sense to say, like, okay, like, you know, I'm
Wow.
gonna have to get my hands dirty with this, you know what I'm saying? But what matters is the quality of it and the energy that you put into it. So when you're grinding, like, you still got to grind with a smile. You still got to sow the seeds with a smile, because you got to be grateful for the opportunity that's in front of you. Every time we pulled up with that damn church van, Maxwell had 4 tour buses, and they just felt like they were just big, illustrious satellites coming out of them,
Wow.
all kind of crazy stuff. And you just like, yo, like, I feel so crazy, but I'm opening up for Maxwell. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that kept us motivated, because it's like, yeah, we sleeping in one hotel room. Yeah, we in a church van. Yeah, like, woo, right? But we opening up for Maxwell. You know what I'm saying? So we got to give it everything that we got. And what ended up happening was, you know, this no-name artist, you know, came out with Dialogue in the Gray, and it went top 10 as far as on R&B iTunes, you know, and it wasn't expected for me to do anything during that time. But it was because of those fans that was coming to those shows. They weren't coming to see me, but it was the fact that I was leaving some type of impression on them. You know, there's people that I run into now at 2025, you know, recalling memories from 2014 when they seen me, you know, at that place or at that level.
Absolutely.
And so that means a lot to me, that it's like all of that hard work, all of that time of focusing, it paid off because they remembered me. And it's just the fact that, like, I'm still around. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still around making noise and putting out records, and, you know, I'm breaking records for that matter. It's a very humbling thing. So it's amazing.
Yeah. Around this time, you know, you put out the full project called Awakening.
Yeah.
And around that time, you started doing like the 1990 mashup series. How did that kickstart? In between, you got the second project out. Do you start doing like covers of different songs, and using like the multiple collages and stuff?
Yeah.
Because I ain't seen anybody do it. You started doing it, man. Everybody just ran with that, man. So,
Ah.
what inspired you to do that while you had an album that you was promoting around that time?
Oh yeah, it had nothing to do with promotion, to be honest with you. My brother put me on to that app. Shout out to Kales. He sent me this app called Acapella, and
Wow.
I think he did like an acapella of like the Power Rangers. And I was like, that's super dope. Like, he was like, yo, like, you should like we should just go back and forth with whatever. And we would just do that like for weeks on end, just doing like little stuff like that, because we're musical in that way. My whole family is. And so one day I was bored, and I was like, maybe I should just put one of these up on social media just to like see. And, you know, like, it went better than what I expected, and it created conversations. And I was like,
Wow.
maybe I should use this a little bit more. And it just continued to expound and grow. And yeah, you know, during that time frame, you know, yeah, you learn how to use it in a sense of saying, okay, like, this helps with momentum. Now we can, you know, spark another conversation from
Yeah.
out of it. But yeah, the true intent of it was not to just garner people so that I can sell them something. It was really the art of it. And it was a way for me to express myself musically that I felt like I couldn't in records. You know what I mean? And so now I just do it for the sport of it. I do it, you know, in a sense of just like, you know, paying homage to, you know, all of the greats and the vets. And now the vets like coming in and doing them with me. You know what I mean? So like, that's wild. And so now it's like I can't go back. So now, like, if the vets ain't doing them, we ain't doing them. So like, you know, like,
Yeah.
but the mashups have been a great experience for me. And I honestly thought I was done with it, like, before this new vets only series. And so, you know, vets only
Wow.
would be for a limited amount of time, but for where we at right now, I'm enjoying the process of it. And yeah.
Yeah. Not too far after that, you know, you put out the Drive, and you start doing like the whole series, like the Drive 2 and stuff. what inspired you to want to continue that theme? You know what I'm saying? You know, with that project.
Great question. I would say Drive, I guess the series was just inspired by kind of like what I
Yeah.
naturally do when I listen to music. So, I'm a driver. Like, so, I used to date a girl, that lived in St. Louis. And I was living in Atlanta at the time. And so if you know anything about distance in that sense, I used to drive my Acura TL from Atlanta, Georgia to, St.
Wow.
Louis. That's 9 hours with the hour, with the time change in between. And I had a lot of time on the road. I had a lot of time on the road to listen to music, listen to my own music, come up with all kinds of, interesting concepts and stuff like that. And so Drive was one of them. Also, just my drive, like drive within myself, my motivation, my engine. And so
Wow.
I felt like with Drive 2, that my engine had grew stronger and that I was smarter and that I was more equipped. And so when I coupled Sweet Release and Looking for Love together, I was like, yeah, this is the continuation of Drive. Like, this is what it sounds like today. Yeah, Janetta, yeah, accurate TL. That's right.
I
Yeah.
think it's also bad because when you continue a series and stuff, it gets fans anticipated. We got part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, 5. In between EPs, full LPs and stuff, it like that whole anticipation, like, oh man, I can't wait to hear the next one, like what's gonna be next. Man, I know
Yeah.
that this artist got something cooking, and stuff, that's what makes it hot. And I want to apologize to because I forgot to mention your song, Long Song Away was your first #1 adult R&B hit back in 2016. And what was that like, at that time when you first saw your name across the print says #1?
To be honest, it was humbling. I went the whole dang radio run without saying that I wrote and produced it, because I was just so glad that, like, I got a song out. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then I looked back and I was like, dang, I did write and produce this. Like, God knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? I wrote and produced that song back in 2013. It didn't come out until 16 or 17. It didn't go #1 until 17. So that's 4 years in between. A pastor said, I think it was Pastor Jamal Bryant or Mike Todd, one of them, said something, and they said, truth don't change with trend. And I stick by that, in the sense of, my truth will not change with the algorithm. You know what I mean? The algorithm has to adapt to me. And so that's where my confidence comes from, in the sense of, like standing 10 toes down and say, look, like,
Yeah,
no matter what y'all on, I'm gonna draw the line in the sand and say, like, I'm not gonna do that. It's certain things that I will do and that I will participate in and that I'm all for. And then it's other things that are just like, this is a trend and I'm not with that. Like, that's not my truth. And so I'm not gonna sell you something that's inauthentic either. And so yeah, that's where we at.
yeah. Man, now you wrote for so many people, man. Johnny Gill, SWV, of course, we mentioned the other names and stuff like that. What was it like to write songs, and the artists approve it, especially from the 80s and 90s artists that you've been a fan of?
I think when you start out writing, you're happy that they cut it. And then when you get used to them cutting it, then you want for it to be the single. And you want for radio to play that cut. And then you want to make sure that the cut that you get from off of that check is appropriate too. So it's levels to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, but it's always gratitude. That's always keeping you grounded, in the sense of, just kind of like saying, okay, I want, I want for people to, record my stuff. I want it to be a single. I want for this record to change my address. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I mean? Like, so, it's definitely levels to it. But yes, grateful for it, and enjoyed each and every artist that I've worked with thus far.
Yeah. You know, as an artist, you know, what inspires you, you know, consistently, you know, to create songs, you know, and put out your projects and stuff? Because I know there are times you probably have your down times when you're not so motivated. It's like your mind is ready, but physically, I mean, mentally, it's like it's not. You know, how you catch yourself from going from like a writer's block, you know, when you put together a song?
So yeah, yeah, when I was younger, I definitely was in that like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel it, whatever. Like now, it's different because my inspiration comes from void. And so what I mean by that is that I look at the landscape of the genre to say, I'm a fan first. I'm a music fan first, right? And so when I'm listening to New Music Friday every Friday. I'm listening to what everybody got because I want to be inspired. I want to enjoy something. I want to add something to my playlist. And there's things that I find, and then after a while, I'll be like, dang, I really want a up tempo. I really want da 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 da. I really want for somebody to, dang, I thought this artist was gonna come out and get me with the whoop 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 whoop. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes they don't. And so I work from off of that. I work off of the need and the necessity that I feel like that's missing from the landscape of it because I believe in balance, right? Like my whole goal as a creative is not to be the best at anything, but to be the most balanced, period. So I want to be the most balanced singer, songwriter, producer, label owner. You know what I mean? Like, period. So that when you look at my stats, there's no holes in my game. That's what I work towards, is that you can say what you want about a certain part of my game, but I can spin, you know what I mean? I can spin around on your ass and, you know what I mean? And it take you in a whole nother world with, you know what I mean? That other arsenal thing that I have. And so, completion is what I'm desiring, or at least the balance of that. You know what I mean? There is a completeness to balance. And so
Yeah.
I look for that in my music. I look for that as far as with an inspiration. And so I can never run dry in that. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
think we're all in the search of balance. We're just adding bits and pieces of it. And that's all I'm doing with my music. Just adding bits of pieces to the landscape of it. Whether or not people are there to accept it at the time. I've seen more success during the aftermath of certain things. God is a Genius came out in 2020 June. It didn't really pop off until 6 months later. You know what I mean? Like, watching a song like that and nobody really rocking with it. Uh, and then all of a sudden it clicks.
Yeah.
It's number one on Sirius XM. And now 30 million streams later. You know what I mean? This is something. And it never was a single. You know what I mean? So with that being said, it's like it taught me there's a time and a place for it. Your job is just to put the music out. You can't force anything down people's throats. And so I'm at peace with it, where Love Up Tempo is high vibrational R&B. So I can't expect for people for that to resonate with people, especially with so much like low vibrational offerings. And I'm not even talking about music. I'm just talking about everything we see. Everything that's on here ain't as high vibrational. And so
Right.
uh I even have to kind of like wean myself to say, nah, let me not follow this page no more. Let me, you know what I mean? Because it messes with your psyche after a while. You know what I mean? Like just all that low vibrational stuff. And so I can't be mad that, it's like, man, everybody should be loving this. It's like, nah, there will be a time. And I'm grateful too. Like, um, what's the record? Love in the Middle, Love in the Middle. We 3 million streams overall across all DSPs into it. You know what I mean? So, for such a low vibrational time and with this high vibrational record, to get 3 million thus far, it's humbling. You know what I mean? And it lets me know the possibility of what it can be. You know what I'm saying? Spin is already at 1 million as far as across
Yeah.
DSPs. Like Back for More is the same thing. So like it's getting great traction. but I know just from off of like,
Wow.
you know, from what I've seen, I was like, okay, this is not an instant thing. This is a thing of, this may come around in 6 months. This may, you know what I mean? Like I may see the fruits of this, you know what I mean? Like well into a year after, I don't know. But my job is just to put out the music, and you know, people can catch up when they catch up, but I got to keep going. So yeah.
Man. I remember 2 years ago, you did like a mashup with one of your songs with the Quell Transman. She's the daughter of Rap Transman of New
Yeah.
Edition. And I
Yeah.
remember I just got out the hospital, and the first thing I saw on my timeline, I said, "Yo, man, this is hot right here," you know, and stuff. How did that connection happen?
Honestly, it was through a open verse challenge that I had for the song called Ready for It, and with Eric Bellinger. And so I was like, man, this kind of feel good. This need an open verse challenge. Did the open verse, and she just so happened to put a verse on there. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know. I just looked at her name and it said Transman at the end of her her username. And so I was like, Transman, let me click. And it was, it was Ralph Transman's daughter. And I was like, this is super
Oh
cool.
man.
So you never know. You never know who's watching. I've been very surprised by who's been watching and who's been quietly supporting. And I'm grateful.
Yeah, man. When I saw it, man, I think I played that maybe like several times and stuff like that, you know. And I said, "Damn!" I said, "What if that would have been like a remix single or something like
Yeah.
that?" You know, where like you got the man perspective, you got the woman's perspective, you know, of how she feeling that way. And big shouts to the Quell. I interviewed her. Yeah, matter of fact, I think a couple months before I interviewed you. Yeah, it was kind of like around that time and stuff, you know. And I hope she does put out new music because she got a lot of talent. She got the voice for it and stuff, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely and stuff. But before we wrap it up, what you got going next for this summer coming up?
Oh yeah, Love of Tempo Volume 2 is definitely coming up for sure. So we got more music on the way. Either late June or early July. I'm trying to push that. I'm trying to get it out sooner than later. And so yeah, I got an arsenal of stuff as far as like for this Love Up Tempo era. I'm just getting started as far as that's concerned. I think that it just needs to be more. It just needs to be more of that in the market space, and it's not a lot of artists that's on that crusade. And so I just kind of gotta fill in the blanks where I can. Of course, I'll do features, and you know what I mean, like that'll be in like other lanes and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But outside of that, my job right now is to, just like stay in this Love of Tempo world for as, for as, yeah, for quite a bit. But, I've been known to do like my drive series every 5 to 6 years. And so, yeah, yes.
Yeah, because every project you put out, man, last several years, I always post on my page to let people know, say, hey, check it out. New Music Mondays. You got a video out? Okay, cool. Video Fridays. I always keep the algorithm going every week, you know, so to let these viewers know that that's a lot of good music you should get out, you know, say you should listen to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And stuff. And that's pretty much where it's at. And I wish that, we had like the Water Sister Parks, the video shows and all these other shows where artists can promote, say what they got going on and just go from there and stuff, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting space that we're in right now, especially like with the visual component, because you can make visual products so, I would say cheap, but it's just inexpensive, right? Like everything could be done on your
Yeah.
phone, right? So I mean, like you said, and then we don't have any platforms. We don't have the video shows. We don't have the 106 in Park. So all of the budget of, spending, 30 to 100 grand to make a video, the truth is that for 99% of the artists that put those videos out, it's not profitable. Like it is what it is. It's a great marketing tool for you to, aesthetically to look the way that you want to look and to, kind of paint the pictures. But business wise, for a lot of people to spend that type of money on music videos, it's just not, it's not enough money in it. And so you have to be more financially conservative in that sense. It's not to say to not do a video. It's just the fact of how you do your videos. And content is more demanding of you. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's always like, even when you feel like you're doing your best content, it's like more, 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 more. How much more content can you make? And so, yeah, it's a very interesting world in the sense of visuals. Yeah, very interesting. I got a lot more to say about that, but I'll keep those thoughts for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, man. Definitely got bring it back on here, man. So that way we'll have to wait like another 4 years, man, down the road.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
stuff, man. And I mean, I'll say, but I definitely want to give you your flowers, man, because to watch you in the last, you know, like 11 years, man, and see watching you evolve as an artist, man, and stay consistent, you know, do what you're doing, man, because I tell you, you know, when people try to say R&B there, to me, I think that's a bunch of baloney because it grows and evolves, because it's always another decade of a generation of artists coming through and picking up whatever's left off from there, and it
yeah,
just grows and stuff like that, man.
yeah.
And that's why I say at the end of the day, man, you know, you definitely made your mark, man. You got other proof. You don't say wrote hits for other people. You don't say hits for yourself, sold out shows, you know what I'm saying? I mean, did everything you're supposed to do and stuff. So keep it coming, my brother.
No, I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
so, yeah. Man, with that being said, we'll give big shouts to Miss Carla, give big shouts to Miss V for setting this interview up and stuff. And with that being said, we out of here. Peace.